Before we begin this incredible true story, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss another amazing story like this one. Now, let's dive into a tale that will leave you speechless. The shooting range was loud that Tuesday morning. Sarah Chen stood in lane 7, her hands steady as she loaded her pistol. Around her, dozens of other shooters practiced their aim. The smell of gunpowder filled the air. Nobody paid attention to the quiet woman in her late 30s. She wore simple jeans and a black jacket. Her hair was tied back in a plain ponytail. She looked like everyone else. But Sarah was not like everyone else. She carried a secret that made her dangerous. A secret that had followed her across 3 states. A secret that was about to be discovered. Sarah had been coming to this range for 6 weeks. She always arrived at the same time. She always practiced for exactly 1 hour. She always left without talking to anyone. The staff barely noticed her. She paid in cash. She never caused problems. She was invisible. That morning, Detective Marcus Williams sat in his car outside the range. He had been watching the place for days. His department had received a tip about someone dangerous. Someone who was planning something terrible. Someone who might be hiding in plain sight. Marcus checked his tablet. The new facial recognition system had just been installed at the range. It was supposed to scan everyone who entered. The system connected to a national database. It searched for wanted criminals. For missing persons. For people who should not have guns. Inside the range, Sarah finished her session. She packed her weapon carefully. She cleaned up her station. She walked toward the exit. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed safe, but then the system alert flashed red. The range manager. Tom Peterson stared at his computer screen. His face went pale. The facial recognition software had just identified someone. Someone with a serious flag in the system. Someone who was supposed to be dead. Tom picked up his phone with shaking hands. He dialed the police. His voice was barely a whisper when he spoke. He told them that a person matching a federal alert was in his building right now. He told them to come quickly. He told them to be careful. Sarah reached the front desk. She smiled at Tom. She always smiled. It was a sad smile. A smile that never reached her eyes. Tom tried to smile back. His heart was pounding. He could see the exit behind her. He could see Detective Marcus getting out of his car in the parking lot. Sarah sensed something was wrong. After 2 years of running, she had developed instincts. She noticed Tom's nervous glance at his computer. She noticed how his hands stayed near his phone. She noticed the change in the air. She turned toward the door. That was when she saw the police cars pulling into the parking lot. 3 of them, no sirens. But their lights were on. They were coming for someone. They were coming for her. Sarah's mind raced. She had been so careful. She had changed her appearance. She had used fake names. She had stayed away from cameras. But this system had found her anyway. Technology had caught what human eyes had missed. Detective Marcus entered the building. His hand rested on his weapon. He looked directly at Sarah. Their eyes met. In that moment, Sarah knew her time was up. 2 years of hiding. 2 years of running. 2 years of living in fear. It was all ending right here. But Marcus did not know the whole story yet. He did not know why Sarah was running. He did not know about the widow mark. He did not know that Sarah was not the villain in this story. She was the victim trying to survive. Detective Marcus walked slowly toward Sarah, his partner. Detective Lisa Rodriguez came in through the back entrance. They had her surrounded. Sarah stood completely still. Her hands were visible. She knew how this worked. Any sudden movement could end badly. Marcus spoke first. His voice was calm, but firm. He asked Sarah to state her name. Sarah remained silent. She looked at the floor. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times. But now that it was happening, she felt frozen. Lisa moved closer. She asked Sarah to show her identification. Sarah slowly reached into her pocket. She pulled out a driver's license. The name on it said Jennifer Walsh. But the facial recognition system had revealed something different. It had identified her as Sarah Chen, a woman who was reported dead 2 years ago. Marcus studied the license. Then he looked at his tablet. The system had flagged Sarah for multiple reasons. There was a missing person report. There was a witness protection inquiry. There was something about organized crime. But most disturbing was the tag that said Widowmark. Sarah finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but steady. She said she would cooperate. She said she would explain everything. But she needed protection. She needed them to understand before they made any decisions. She needed them to know about Victor. The name Victor made Marcus pause. He had heard that name before. Viktor Kozlov, a man connected to the Russian mafia, a man who ran illegal operations across the East Coast, a man who was very good at making people disappear. Marcus looked at Sarah with new eyes. Suddenly, this was not a simple arrest. They moved to a private office in the back of the range. Sarah sat down. Lisa offered her water. Sarah accepted it gratefully. Her hands trembled as she lifted the cup. She had not told her story to anyone in 2 years. She had buried it deep inside. But now it was time to let it out. Sarah began talking. She told them about her life 3 years ago. She had been a financial analyst for a large company in New York. She was good at her job. She was quiet and careful with numbers. She noticed patterns that others missed. That skill had changed her life forever. One day, Sarah discovered something wrong in the company accounts. Money was moving in strange ways. Large amounts were being transferred through shell companies. The patterns looked like money laundering. Sarah did what she thought was right. She reported it to her supervisor. That was her first mistake. Her supervisor was part of the operation. Within hours, dangerous people knew that Sarah had seen too much. They knew she could connect the money to Viktor Kozlov. They knew she was a threat. Sarah went home that night not knowing her life was in danger. But someone was already watching her apartment. Someone was already making plans. Viktor Kozlov did not leave loose ends. He had a reputation to protect. He had a method for dealing with problems like Sarah. That method was called the widow mark. It was a signature. A warning. A message to anyone who might think about talking. When Victor wanted someone gone, he made sure their death looked like an accident. But he always left a small mark. A symbol that his people would recognize. A black widow spider drawn somewhere on the victim's body. It told everyone in the criminal world that this person had crossed Viktor Kozlov, Sarah. Learned about the widow mark from her husband. David Chen was a federal prosecutor. He had been investigating Victor for years. He knew how dangerous the man was. When Sarah told David what she had discovered at work, his face went white. He immediately knew Sarah was in trouble. David made calls that night. He contacted the FBI. He contacted witness protection. He tried to get Sarah into a safe program, but everything moved too slowly. Government paperwork took time. Background checks took time. Sarah did not have time. 2 nights later, David never came home from work. His car was found at the bottom of a ravine. The police called it an accident. They said he lost control on a wet road. But Sarah knew better. She went to identify his body. That was when she saw it. A small black widow spider drawn on his shoulder. Hidden where only someone looking would find it, Sarah understood the message immediately. Victor was telling her that she was next. The widow mark meant David had been murdered. It meant Sarah was being hunted. It meant she had to run or die. She did not go home that night. She took nothing but her purse. She disappeared into the city. For 2 years, Sarah had been running. She changed her name. She changed her appearance. She moved from city to city. She learned to shoot because she needed to protect herself. She came to shooting ranges to practice. She thought she was being careful. She thought she was safe. But the facial recognition system had found her. Marcus and Lisa listened to Sarah's story in silence. When she finished, they looked at each other. This was bigger than they expected. This was not a simple case. This was federal. This was dangerous. This was the kind of case that could get them killed. Marcus made a decision. He told Sarah she was not under arrest. Instead, she was in protective custody. He needed to contact the FBI. He needed to verify her story. He needed to make sure she was telling the truth, but his instincts told him she was. Everything about her fear seemed real. Lisa stayed with Sarah while Marcus made calls. He stepped outside and dialed a number he had used only once before. It was for FBI agent James Cooper. Cooper specialized in organized crime. He had been chasing Viktor Kozlov for a decade. Marcus explained the situation quickly. He told Cooper they had found Sarah Chen. There was a long silence on the phone. Then Cooper spoke. His voice was urgent. He told Marcus to get Sarah out of there immediately. He said Viktor had people everywhere. He said the moment Sarah was identified by the system, Viktor would know. He said they had maybe 30 minutes before killers arrived. Marcus felt his blood run cold. He ran back inside. He told Lisa they needed to move now. They needed to get Sarah to a safe location. They needed to do it without anyone knowing where they were going. Sarah saw the fear in their eyes. She had seen that look before. It was the look of people who just realized how dangerous Viktor Kozlov really was. They took Sarah out through the back exit. Marcus called for an unmarked car. They could not use their regular police vehicle. Viktor had contacts in law enforcement. He had people who watched police movements. He had informants who reported on arrests and investigations. They needed to stay invisible. The unmarked car arrived within minutes. It was driven by someone Marcus trusted completely. His old partner from his army days, a man named Robert Hayes, who now worked private security. Robert asked no questions. He just drove. They headed toward a safe house on the outskirts of the city. As they drove, Marcus asked Sarah more questions. He needed to know everything. He asked about the financial evidence she had found. He asked if she had kept any copies. He asked if anyone else knew what she had discovered. Sarah told him she had been smart. Before she reported the money laundering to her supervisor, she had made copies. She had downloaded files onto a flash drive. She had hidden it somewhere safe. She had not touched it in 2 years. She did not dare to. She knew Viktor would be watching for any sign of her. Marcus realized what this meant. Sarah had evidence that could bring down Viktor Kozlov. She had proof of his money laundering operation. She had records that could connect him to dozens of crimes. She was not just a witness. She was the key to ending Viktor's criminal empire. But that also made her incredibly valuable and incredibly hunted. Viktor would spend any amount of money to find her. He would use every resource he had. He would kill anyone who got in his way. Sarah was the most dangerous person to Viktor Kozlov in the entire country. They reached the safe house. It was a small cabin in the woods. It had no neighbors. It had only one road in and out. Robert stayed outside to watch for any followers. Marcus and Lisa took Sarah inside. Lisa checked all the windows. Marcus made sure the doors were secure. Sarah sat down on an old couch. She looked exhausted. The fear she had carried for 2 years was written all over her face. She had been running for so long. She had been alone for so long. She had thought about giving up so many times. But she kept going because of David. She kept going because she wanted justice for her murdered husband. Marcus sat down across from her. He asked the question that had been bothering him. Why had she been at the shooting range? Why take the risk of being in public? Why not just hide completely? Sarah's answer was simple but powerful. She said she refused to be helpless. When Viktor killed David, she had been unable to do anything. She had been weak and unprepared. She decided she would never be that way again. She learned to shoot so that if Viktor's killers ever found her, she could fight back. She practiced so that she would be ready. She went to ranges because she needed to be strong. Marcus understood. Sarah was not just running. She was preparing. She was getting ready for the day when running would no longer be enough. She was becoming the one thing Viktor did not expect. She was becoming dangerous. Agent Cooper arrived at the safe house 2 hours later. He brought 3 other FBI agents with him. He looked at Sarah like she was made of gold. He told her she was the break they had been waiting for. He said with her testimony and evidence, they could finally arrest Viktor Kozlov. But there was a problem. Viktor knew Sarah was alive now. The facial recognition alert had been uploaded to a database that Victor had access to through corrupt contacts. He knew exactly where Sarah had been spotted. He was probably already sending people. They needed to move Sarah to federal protection immediately. The plan was to move Sarah before sunrise. Agent Cooper wanted to transport her to a federal facility 3 states away. There she would be placed in official witness protection. She would be safe. She would be guarded 24 hours a day. She would finally be able to stop running. But Victor Kozlov was faster than they expected. At 11:30 that night, Robert noticed headlights on the road leading to the cabin. 2 vehicles. Moving slowly? No reason for anyone to be out there at that hour. He immediately radioed Marcus. They had company. The FBI agents moved quickly. They positioned themselves at windows. They drew their weapons. Marcus told Sarah to get into the basement. There was a hidden room down there. A panic room built by the previous owner who had been paranoid about home invasions. Sarah would be safe there no matter what happened upstairs. Sarah did not want to hide. She had trained for this. She had prepared for this. She wanted to fight. But Marcus was firm. He told her that her evidence was more important than pride. If she died, Victor won. If she survived, Victor would go to prison. The choice was clear. Sarah reluctantly went to the basement. Lisa went with her. She would guard the entrance to the panic room. She told Sarah that no one would get past her. Sarah believed her. She had seen the determination in Lisa's eyes. She had seen it in all of them. These people were willing to die to protect her. The 2 vehicles stopped about 50 yards from the cabin. 4 men got out. They were dressed in dark clothes. They carried automatic weapons. They did not try to hide. They did not care about being seen. They were Victor's best killers. They had done this many times before. They expected this to be easy. Agent Cooper used a loudspeaker. He identified himself as FBI. He told the men to put down their weapons. He told them they were surrounded. It was a bluff. They were not surrounded. But Cooper hoped the men would not know that. The men responded with gunfire. Bullets shattered the front windows. They tore through the wooden walls. The cabin was not built to withstand an assault. Agent Cooper and his team returned fire. The night exploded with the sound of guns. Marcus stayed low. He moved to a better position. He was a good shot. He had been a sniper in the army. He aimed carefully. He took down one of Victor's men with a single shot. The man fell and did not get up. That made the other 3 more cautious. The gunfight lasted for 20 minutes. It felt like hours. The cabin was being destroyed around them. Furniture was shredded. Windows were gone. Walls had holes everywhere. But the FBI agents held their position. They did not let anyone get close to the basement door. Then something changed. One of the FBI agents named Williams was hit. He went down hard. Blood spread across his chest. The other agents tried to reach him, but the gunfire was too intense. Williams was exposed. He was dying. Someone needed to get to him. Robert made the decision. He had combat medical training. He ran from his position outside. He moved through the gunfire like it was nothing. He reached Williams and began dragging him to safety. Bullets kicked up dirt all around them. But Robert did not stop. He got Williams behind cover and started working on his wound. Marcus saw his chance. While Victor's men were focused on Robert, Marcus moved to a window with a clear shot. He took aim at the second man. He squeezed the trigger. Another one down. Now there were only 2 killers left, but these 2 were the most dangerous. One of them was Dmitry Volkov. He was Victor's top enforcer. He was the man who had killed David Chen. He was the man who had put the widow mark on dozens of bodies. He was not going to give up easily. Dmitry made a bold move. He ran directly at the cabin. He fired his weapon constantly. He broke through the damaged front door. He was inside before anyone could stop him. Agent Cooper tried to intercept him, but Dmitry was too fast. He hit Cooper with the butt of his gun. Cooper fell hard. Marcus turned to face Dmitry. They were now in close quarters. This was not going to be a shooting match. This was going to be a fight. Marcus had trained for this too. He dropped his gun and prepared himself. Dmitri smiled. He liked hand-to-hand combat. He was good at it. They crashed into each other. They fought with brutal efficiency. Every move was meant to kill. Marcus landed hard hits, but Dmitri kept coming. He was strong. He was experienced. He was winning. Marcus felt ribs crack. He tasted blood. He knew he was in trouble. In the basement, Sarah heard the fighting above. She heard Marcus struggling. She knew what was happening. She made a decision. She was done hiding. She was done running. She was done being a victim. David would not want her to hide while good people died protecting her. Sarah pushed past. Lisa tried to stop her, but Sarah was determined. She grabbed Lisa's backup weapon. She ran up the stairs. She emerged into chaos. The cabin was a war zone. She saw Marcus on the ground. She saw Dmitri standing over him. She saw Dmitri raising his gun to finish Marcus off. Sarah did not think. She just acted. She raised the weapon. She aimed just like she had practiced for 2 years. She fired 3 shots. All 3 hit Dmitri. He stumbled backward. He looked at Sarah with shock. He had not expected her to fight back. He had expected her to be easy prey. He fell to the floor. The last of Victor's men saw what happened. He saw Dmitri go down. He saw Sarah standing there with a gun. He decided this job was not worth dying for. He ran back to his vehicle. He drove away fast. The attack was over. The cabin fell silent, except for heavy breathing and groans of pain. Sarah stood frozen. The gun was still in her hands. She had just killed a man. She had taken a life. Her hands began to shake. The reality of what she had done hit her hard. Marcus pulled himself up. His ribs hurt badly, but he was alive. He looked at Sarah with respect. She had saved his life. She had done what needed to be done. He walked over to her gently. He took the gun from her trembling hands. He told her it was over. She was safe now. Agent Cooper was getting back on his feet. His head was bleeding, but he would be okay. He immediately called for backup and medical assistance. They needed ambulances for Williams and others who were injured. They needed more agents to secure the scene. They needed to find the man who escaped. Lisa came up from the basement. She saw the destruction. She saw Dmitri's body on the floor. She saw Sarah standing there in shock. Lisa put her arm around Sarah. She told her she had been brave. She told her she had done the right thing. Sarah did not feel brave. She felt numb. The backup arrived within 30 minutes. Ambulances took Williams and the other injured to hospitals. More FBI agents secured the cabin. They collected evidence. They photographed everything. They took Dmitri's body away. They began the long process of documenting what had happened. Agent Cooper took Sarah outside. The fresh air helped her breathe. He told her they needed to move quickly. Victor would know the attack failed. He would send more people. They could not stay here any longer. They needed to get Sarah into federal custody immediately. But Sarah had a condition. She told Cooper she wanted to get the evidence first. She wanted to retrieve the flash drive she had hidden 2 years ago. She wanted to make sure Victor paid for everything he had done. Cooper understood. The evidence was crucial. Without it, their case against Victor was weaker. Sarah told them where the flash drive was hidden. It was in a safety deposit box in Philadelphia. The box was under a false name. Sarah had the key hidden in a location only she knew. She had been careful. She had planned for this day, even when she thought it might never come. They made plans to go to Philadelphia the next morning. A team of 12 FBI agents would escort Sarah. They would retrieve the evidence. Then they would take her to the secure federal facility. Nothing would be left to chance. Victor Kozlov would not get another opportunity to kill Sarah. That night, Sarah could not sleep. She kept seeing Dmitri falling. She kept seeing the look in his eyes. She kept feeling the gun kick in her hands. She had never imagined she would kill someone. Even with all her training, even with all her preparation, the reality was different than practice. Marcus came to check on her. He sat down next to her. He told her about his first time in combat. He told her how hard it had been. He told her that taking a life changes you. But he also told her that she had nothing to feel guilty about. Dmitri had killed her husband. Dmitri had killed many innocent people. Dmitri would have killed Marcus and everyone else in that cabin. Sarah had stopped a killer. She had saved lives. His words helped. Sarah began to see it differently. She had not been a murderer. She had been a defender. She had protected people who were protecting her. She had fought back against the evil that had destroyed her life. That was not something to be ashamed of. That was something to be proud of. The next morning they drove to Philadelphia. The convoy of vehicles moved carefully. They took random routes. They changed directions unpredictably. They made sure no one was following them. Victor's spy network was extensive, but they stayed ahead of it. They reached the bank where Sarah's safety deposit box was located. Sarah went inside with Agent Cooper and 4 other agents. The rest stayed outside watching for threats. Sarah presented her identification and key. The bank manager escorted them to the vault. Sarah opened the box. Inside was a small flash drive. Such a tiny thing. But it contained years of financial records. It showed millions of dollars moving through illegal channels. It connected Viktor Kozlov to drug trafficking, weapons dealing, human smuggling, and murder for hire. It was enough to put him away for life. Agent Cooper carefully placed the flash drive in an evidence bag. He treated it like it was made of diamonds. In many ways, it was more valuable than diamonds. This flash drive represented justice. It represented the end of Viktor Kozlov's criminal empire. It represented Sarah's freedom. They left the bank and returned to the vehicles. The drive to the federal facility would take 4 hours. Sarah felt lighter than she had in years. She had the evidence. She was protected. She was finally going to see Victor pay for what he did. David could rest in peace knowing his killer would face justice. But they were only 30 minutes into the drive when something went wrong. A truck suddenly pulled in front of their convoy. It stopped hard. Their vehicles had to brake. Another truck pulled behind them. They were boxed in. This was an ambush. Men poured out of both trucks. They had military weapons. They had body armor. They were prepared for a war. Victor had thrown everything he had at this operation. He knew this was his last chance to stop Sarah. He knew if she reached federal custody with that evidence, he was finished. The FBI agents returned fire immediately. But they were outgunned. The attackers had better weapons. They had better positions. They had more people. This was not like the cabin. This was a professional military operation. Victor had hired mercenaries, real soldiers. People who fought wars for money. Agent Cooper made a desperate decision. He told the driver to ram through. They needed to break the blockade. They needed to get Sarah out of the kill zone. The driver hit the gas. Their vehicle smashed into the truck in front. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. But they broke through. Their vehicle raced down the highway. Behind them, the other FBI vehicles were still fighting. Agent Cooper knew his team was buying them time with their lives. He would honor that sacrifice by getting Sarah and the evidence to safety. He told the driver to go faster, to not stop for anything. The mercenaries pursued in their trucks. They fired at the fleeing vehicle. Bullets hit the back window. The armored glass cracked, but held. Sarah stayed low in her seat. She clutched the evidence bag with the flash drive. She could not let it be destroyed. Too many people had died protecting it. Marcus was in the vehicle too. He was on the phone calling for help. He contacted state police. He contacted more FBI units. He contacted anyone who could intercept the mercenaries. He gave their location. He described their situation. Help was coming, but it would take time. They needed to survive until then. The chase continued for 15 miles. The driver was skilled. He took sharp turns. He used traffic to block the mercenaries. He drove like his life depended on it, because it did. But the mercenaries were persistent. They were professional. They kept coming. Then Sarah noticed something. One of the mercenary trucks was pulling alongside them. A man in the passenger seat had a rocket launcher. He was aiming it at their vehicle. Even armored glass could not stop a rocket. They were about to die. Sarah made a split-second decision. She told the driver to brake hard. He trusted her and did it. Their vehicle slowed suddenly. The mercenary truck shot past them. The man with the rocket launcher lost his aim. His shot went wide. It hit an empty field instead of their vehicle. But now the mercenaries were in front of them. The second truck was behind. They were trapped again. The driver looked at Cooper for instructions. Cooper looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Sarah. They all knew there was only one option left. They had to fight. The vehicle stopped. Everyone got out. They took defensive positions behind the armored car. The mercenaries approached from both sides. This was the final stand. Either they would survive, or Victor would win. There was no middle ground anymore. The firefight was intense. Marcus was hit in the shoulder, but kept shooting. Cooper took a round in the leg, but stayed in the fight. Sarah used Cooper's backup gun. She aimed carefully, like she had practiced. She hit what she aimed at. She was no longer the helpless analyst who had run away 2 years ago. She was a survivor who knew how to fight. Then they heard sirens. Multiple sirens. Coming fast. The state police had arrived. Behind them came more FBI vehicles. The cavalry had made it. The mercenaries saw the reinforcements coming. They knew the mission had failed. They retreated to their trucks and drove away fast. They would disappear and never be found. That was how mercenaries survived. Sarah collapsed against the vehicle. She was not hurt. She was just exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off. She had survived again. She had the evidence. She had one. Cooper put his hand on her shoulder. He told her it was truly over now. No more running. No more hiding. No more fear. They made it to the federal facility later that day. Sarah was placed in official witness protection. She received medical care. She received counseling. She received a new identity that would be permanent. She would never be Sarah Chin again. But she would be alive. The flash drive was analyzed by FBI experts. It was everything they hoped for and more. The evidence was overwhelming. It connected Viktor Kozlov to over 50 serious crimes. It named his associates. It detailed his operations. It was the complete map of his criminal empire. 3 weeks later, a massive operation was launched. The FBI arrested Viktor Kozlov and 47 members of his organization. The arrests happened simultaneously across 12 states. There was no warning, no leaks, no chance for anyone to escape. Viktor's empire collapsed in a single morning. Viktor's trial lasted 6 months. Sarah testified. She told the jury everything. She showed them the evidence. She explained how Viktor's money laundering worked. She identified the people involved. The defense tried to discredit her. They called her a liar. They said she was making it up. But the evidence did not lie. The numbers did not lie. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Then they returned with their verdict. Guilty on all counts. Viktor Kozlov was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. His associates received similar sentences. The criminal organization that had terrorized the East Coast for 20 years was destroyed. After the trial, Sarah visited David's grave for the first time in 2 years. She had been too afraid to go before. But now it was safe. Viktor could never hurt her again. She sat by the gravestone and talked to David. She told him about the trial. She told him that his killer was in prison. She told him that the widow Mark would claim no more victims. Sarah cried. She cried for David. She cried for all the time she lost running. She cried for the person she used to be, who was gone forever. But she also felt relief. The weight she had carried for 2 years was lifted. She could finally grieve properly. She could finally start healing. Marcus and Lisa visited her one last time before she entered her new life. They had become friends through the ordeal. Marcus's shoulder had healed. Lisa was back on duty. They told Sarah they were proud of her. They said she was the bravest person they had ever met. Sarah did not feel brave, but she accepted their words. Agent Cooper told Sarah that she had done more than save herself. She had saved countless future victims. Victor's organization had been planning major operations: drug shipments, human trafficking, contract killings. All of it was stopped because Sarah had the courage to come forward, because she refused to stay hidden. Because she fought back, Sarah entered witness protection with a new name and a new life. She moved to a small town where nobody knew her past. She got a job as a teacher. She made new friends who would never know her story. She lived quietly. She lived safely. She lived free. But Sarah never forgot. She kept a small box in her closet. Inside was a photo of David, a copy of the court verdict, and a newspaper article about Victor's arrest. She looked at these items once a year on the anniversary of David's death. They reminded her of who she had been, of what she had survived, of why she had fought. The shooting range where Sarah was discovered installed better security after the incident. They trained their staff on recognizing potential threats. They cooperated with law enforcement. Tom Peterson, the manager, often thought about that day, about how a quiet woman in Lane 7 had been living a nightmare, about how technology had saved her life by revealing her location to both the police and the killers. Years passed. Sarah built a good life. She found peace. She even learned to be happy again. The nightmares eventually faded. The fear eventually loosened its grip. She would always carry scars from what happened. But scars meant she had survived. Scars meant she had healed. Scars meant she was stronger than what tried to break her. And somewhere, in a maximum security prison, Victor Kozlov spent every day knowing he had been defeated by the woman he tried to make disappear. The woman who carried the widow mark's shadow but refused to become its victim. The woman who blended in with other shooters but was revealed by technology. The woman who turned from prey into the hunter? Sarah Chen had won.